All right, good evening to the listeners and viewers of this week in interview. First of all, let me apologize for the late start. Sometimes the devil is in the technology, and for whatever reason, my camera was giving me some issues right when we were about to come on air. And so, as usual, Sam had to do his magic. So we're sorry for the start. But welcome to you. I hope you are having a wonderful week so far. And this is the highlight of my week. It's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, and I get to spend some time with you. And so I hope you're ready for a wonderful conversation tonight. My guest tonight is an attorney at law, Mr. Joshua Francis. He's also the spokesperson for the Progressive Party. And we're going to talk about politics. We're going to talk about him as a politician, he as a person, a family man, an attorney. We are going to talk about the state of Dominican politics, especially from the perspective of the opposition forces. Um, I circulated a flyer and a video before the program, and I got a lot of feedback from you. So I am looking forward to a very animated conversation this evening. But I'll give you an opportunity if you haven't done so to just share the link with folks. Ask them to they can log on to, if they're on Facebook, they can go to this Week in Interview Facebook page, or if they don't have Facebook, they can go to tdntv.net. They could also go on onto YouTube, because we are on there if they subscribe to our YouTube channel or Instagram. So we are going to normally I take a little break to give you an opportunity to collect yourself, but because we have a late start, I'm going to just launch directly in to the program. You know, just to set a little background, because not everybody in the audience is from Dominica. So just set a little bit of a background of the political situation in Dominica. I'm going to take a few minutes to do that. The most important thing that the most important feature of contemporary politics in Dominica as we speak is that the incumbent Labour Party has held the reins of government since 2000. They took over from the United Workers' Party, who was in power for a little less than 5 years, and they called a snap election, not a snap election, because it was almost 5 years. They were in maybe the second half of their last year and their fifth year of being in power. They called an election, and they got a surprise in that they lost the election. The Dominica Freedom Party and the Labour Party pooled their winnings together, and therefore together they had 11 seats. Dominica having 21 constituencies, so the party with 11 seats forms the government. And so the Labour Party has been in power in Dominica for that almost 25 years. The most popular, Rosie Douglas, was the prime minister, first Labour Party prime minister, but unfortunately he died in office, and so he was succeeded by his deputy, Pierre Charles, who also died in office. Very very unusual, but whatever, not whatever, but maybe it's coincidental. But we had two prime ministers die within quick order of each other, and so Roosevelt Skerritt, who was a young minister at the time, ascended to the leadership of the party and assumed the office of prime minister. So he's been in office now. The party's been in power for almost 25 years. I want to say that he's been in power now for about 22 or 23 years. But nevertheless, the Labour Party has been in have held the reins of government from 2000. United Workers' Party was the official opposition for most of that time. The Labour Party called a snap election a little more than 2 years ago, and the United Workers' Party, who have been crying foul on each of the elections since 2000, decided not to contest. A few independent candidates went up for elections, and two candidates from traditionally strongholds of United Workers' Party, the Marigot constituency and the Salisbury constituency, won their seats. And so the composition right now of elected members in Dominica Parliament is Labour Party, 19 seats, and there are two independent seats, one from Salisbury, one from Marigot. And I believe there are four opposition senators. Um, so that sets the background against which we're going to have this conversation. In addition to that, the thing that I'd want to say is that in recent times, my guest, Mr. Joshua Francis, has announced the formation of a new political party called the United Progressive Party. And the other important fact or tidbit that I can in setting up the background is that Mr. Francis used to be the deputy leader. I think he was the deputy leader of the United Workers Party. He since parted ways with the party. Was unaffiliated for a while there, and then earlier this year he announced every time it's earlier this year, if it's late last year, we'll get the details from him. He announced the formation of a new party. One of the features of that announcement is that one of the two seats that are not held by the Labour Party in the Marigot constituency, which is a stronghold of the United Workers Party. The gentleman who holds that seat has affiliated himself, has announced that he is a member of the United Progressive Party. And so the opposition forces have been put in sort of like a spin. There's been a lot of, you want to say, chaos, uncertainty. Although they've been in the news, the opposition is very interesting. And my dear friend Sam always quotes the Chinese proverbs that says, "May you live in interesting times." It's seen as a curse because if your times are interesting, it's probably that you're going through challenging times. And so the opposition forces in Dominica uh, are experiencing interesting times. Whether that's a curse or that's a blessing in disguise, is what we are invited my guests on tonight to talk about and to explore. Mr. Joshua Francis is an attorney at law by profession. He is the former parliamentary representative for the Rosa South constituency, which encompasses Newtown. I think it goes to as far as Louvier and includes Bath Estate, I believe. And so he held that seat when he came on streaming. Stalwart, very very stalwart politician. He unseated a very popular candidate, very what was considered to be a Labour Party stronghold in the person of Ambrose George. And this young man, this upstart, came in and was able to organize a campaign effectively and to take that seat away from Ambrose George and held it well um, until his I guess his philosophy or whatever it is clashed with that of the United Workers Party, and there was a little bit of a rupture and a rift in that constituency, which went back to the Labour Party. So I think this is enough of a background. Let me bring my guest on, and so we can start the discussion. Joshua, Mr. Francis, welcome to this weekend interview. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, good evening, Anthony, and good evening to your listeners and your viewers, wherever they are. It's always a pleasure to be on radio. I think that's my second time making an appearance on TDN, and I'm honored to be here this evening. And I'm looking forward to have a very interactive program. I hope you had a good day, Anthony, and your listeners and viewers likewise. You gave quite a comprehensive background. I'm not too sure whether I need anything or there's anything to add to the background. The platform has already been created, so it's just a matter of launching into the substance of the program, unless if there's something that you desire to know about the past or the current as a startup to the program.
No, I think we can launch into the discussion. The only thing I would say is that I have neglected to, because I was late, kind of threw me off my program, but to really welcome my guests. I have some folks who come every Wednesday. They've been coming every Wednesday for years. This is our 14th year of this weekend interview, 14th season, and there are folks who come every Wednesday for the last 7, 8, 9 years, religiously, and so I always like to show appreciation to them, and I would like to welcome those who are on for the first time and to tell them I hope you like our format. I hope you like what you hear, that they too can become a regular listener. If you're listening from
Correct.
Dominica, or if you know someone in Dominica, you can let them know that this weekend interview is carried live on DigiPlay Channel 59, RVR Jams Online Radio. carries this weekend interview live, and also in the Toronto market, online radio SBE carries this week in interview live. And folks, so just let people know that we're having this wonderful discussion. I got all kinds of feedback when I announced you as my guest and what our topic of discussion was. We will go into that in some detail. But I'm going to really continue to lay the foundation for our discussion by launching right into the formation of the United Progressive Party. Not to be confused with United Workers' Party, so we'll call it the Progressive Party for the remainder of the show. The Progressive Party, what was your motivation? Does Dominica, and that's coming from some of the pushback I got when I advertised the show. There are some people who are vehemently opposed to a new party. They think that it's sowing the seeds of division when when the opposition forces should be coming together and all of those things. So I want you to walk us through your thoughts that led you to say, you know what, I think there is space for a progressive party in Dominica, and I'm going to take this step forward and to start it.
All right, Anthony. Anthony, we live in a democracy, and democracy means that as an individual or as an entity, you have a right to assembly, you have a right of association, and with those fundamental rights, one can simply analyze the situation in any democracy and based on his liking or dislikes decide to form a political party as we did. The question is, why did we form this political party? Well,
Hmm.
clearly, those of us who decided to be part of this felt that the existing political force was divisive and that our efforts would not necessarily make the opposition group more cohesive. We also felt that the strategies employed by the opposition forces were not necessarily viable, hence contributing to the strengthening and current superpower, as I say, of the Dominican Labour Party government. After all, we need to take note of certain things. And I'm glad that you look at this from a historical perspective. If we were to look at Dominican political landscape from 1980, one would appreciate that from 1980 to 1980 to 1995, the Dominican Freedom Party formed and reigned in government. And the main opposition party was the Dominican Labour Party. In 1988, if you recall, Anthony, the United
Hmm.
Workers' Party was formed. And likewise, there would have been persons with similar sentiments in that why form a third party? Because generally, in developing democracies as ours, you tend to have two main political parties. Even in the United States of America, you have two main political parties, and third parties generally do not survive. But for some reason, Dominica appears to be an exception. And when the United Workers' Party appeared on the scene, it took that party 2 years as a recognized political party to win 6 seats in parliament and formed the main opposition party. By 1995, the United Workers' Party had formed the government, which means that it took them 7 years to get up on top of the political ladder. Now, when you contextualize the situation, likewise, at this very juncture, we have an opposition party without any seats, or opposition parties without any seats in parliament. As you pointed out earlier, we have these two independent uh, members of parliament, but we do not have any opposition party with a seat, unlike in 1988 when you had, in 1990, sorry, when the Labour Party had 2 seats in parliament. So I'm saying this to say the opportunity for a third party or even a fourth party right now may even be more viable than in 1990. Of course, the political behavior of the electorate may have changed, and I hope we get an opportunity to speak about that. But having said that, a few of us came together and we flirted with the idea of forming a new political party, not with the intention to deflate or to dismantle the existing opposition political parties, but with the intention to give the electorate another choice, another opportunity to decide where they want to put their votes. Because after all, it's a democracy, and in a democracy, every party is responsible to persuade the electorate to vote them. So we have not gotten to the point of an election. When the time for an election arises, I would hope that every opposition political party would be prepared to sit on a table and have a discussion and to make decisions which are in the best interest of Dominica. So our purpose is not to facilitate and advance tribalism. If anything, we're hoping that we can bring a new type of political behavior within the arena, which could even benefit the existing opposition parties. So the notion that we are dividing the opposition, I don't see that to be true because, as I said, as we speak, there isn't any opposition party in Dominica with a seat in parliament. We do not have that.
Mhm.
And no party owns anybody. Today, one could be a supporter of the Dominican Labour Party, and tomorrow be a supporter of an opposition political party.
Yeah,
So,
we've seen candidates cross the floor, so to speak. We've seen
right,
candidates change allegiance
we've
without any consequence. It seems to be totally legal to do that.
right, and also supporters, electorate, the people change their minds over time, and that is
Right.
what we are involved in. We're hoping that our participation in the political arena will only add value to politics in Dominica. This is not personal. This is not being done on any personal stream to get at anybody or any political party. We are basically coming into the arena with our own ideology, our own ideas, and we can only
So,
hope.
so
Yeah.
without interrupting you, that's one of the things I want to explore. Um, because when we look at philosophy that parties put forward, so for example, you reference the United States, the two main parties, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. One is considered to be left leaning, although the Democratic Party is by no means left. But the Republican Party is extremely right, and so they make the Democratic Party look left. But you can identify points of departure in their philosophy and policies that they support and that sort of thing. How do you distinguish or differentiate the Progressive Party from, let's say, a Freedom Party or a United Workers Party? What do you have a fundamental difference in philosophy? What would distinguish and differentiate the parties?
Well, first of all, you have a general philosophy and then you have specific philosophies. So, generally, we may be common with the other political parties in Dominica in that we are social democrats. We are in the middle.
Okay.
The type of political ideology which we employ is social democracy, where you have a mixed type of, of philosophy in respect to governance. But where we differ is on the different areas of living. So, for example, the environment. Our philosophy is well spelled out in the constitution of the Progressive Party, where we place more emphasis on the environment. We see Dominica as a very unique and peculiar nation, a peculiar island. And we have analyzed the comparative advantage that Dominica has or bears with it. And in that regard, we believe that more emphasis is placed on the environment. So, in terms of the environment, we are different in that we want to place more emphasis on the environment. Of course, we hear about uh, eco development, ecotourism, sustainable economic development. Those terms have been with us for a long time. But we are of the humble view, and we assert forcefully that no government in the history of Dominica has really taken advantage of the nature that Dominica has. We believe that the world is trying to reverse its economic journey, whereby they are altering their economic model. They want to go back green, they want to go back organic. So, really, these developed countries have seen their errors and they want to come back like how we are in Dominica. So prudently, a government, a responsible government which is visionary, can appreciate that what the world right now is heading to, we have it. We have the clean air, the fresh water, the peaceful life. So what we need to do right now is to engineer economic formulas which can be employed and used to enhance the quality of life and at the same time sustain the environment because that's where our strength lies. So
Okay.
we're
So
hoping,
so
yes.
so so you're saying that one of the emphasis, one of the major
Mhm.
planks in your platform is the environment, protection of the environment, and development of a tourism X slash economic product that is compatible with protecting the environment.
That is correct. And also in terms of agriculture, we believe
That's what
that
I was going to ask you next. So go ahead and tell us how your agriculture would be different from what we see, what we have seen in the last 15, 20 years of the Labour Party.
well, first of all, as I stated to you, you would appreciate that even in the United States of America, as an example, organic foods fetch premium prices. Now, organic agriculture is very costly, but like everything else, when you put in the cost, you can make up, and the world is prepared and willing to purchase organic supplies. And we do not have to go far. Even within Dominica, more and more people are demanding organics. We do not have any system in place to certify organic agriculture. So we first had to put the bureaucracy in place, the appropriate institutions with the necessary technicians who can go out in the field to certify organic areas. Then we believe in zonification, landscape zonification, where certain parts of Dominica can be declared as organic zones. So, for example, we could take the entire southeast as an organic zone, whereby every farmer is obliged legally to practice organic farming. Of course, that will come with subsidiary or government assistance, because, as I said, that would be costly. And one of the reasons why people may not get into organic farming is for the very reason they spend more. Because imagine you do not want to use chemicals, weedicides, pesticides, and so on, and you have to use manpower or natural means. And then when you get the product, you cannot get the price for it. We are saying that we can enhance and develop Dominica and market Dominica as a nature island of the world, the nature people of the world, not just the Caribbean. And there's a niche for that. So it's along that tunnel we
Mhm.
are looking at, and we believe that the potential exists. It's just a matter of taking the necessary steps, believing in what we do, and getting the funding. Now, another fundamental difference which separates us from the other existing political parties is that whilst currently Dominica is enjoying government revenue in excess of 60% from the CBI program, we believe in the long run, the CBI program is not the best program for Dominica. Number one, there are social ramifications which have not been scientifically assessed and presented to the public because most of us are only looking at the economic benefits. We sell a few passports, we approve a few CBI projects, we build the hotels, and we expect them to create employment. And by employment, more money circulation, a more vibrant economy, and a higher standard of living. But there are other parameters to this program that we have not properly addressed. With the Progressive Party, we believe that we can put a group, a committee to study the CBI programs from a social point of view. What kind of impact will it have on Dominica in 10 years, 15, 20, 20, 30 years from now? Because we are selling passports indiscriminately, creating more Dominican citizens. The world is dynamic. If for some reason that people who have purchased our passport have to seek refuge in these small islands in the Caribbean. You can only imagine over 50, 60, 70,000 wealthy people coming to Dominica. And naturally, in a free economy like ours, as we have seen, they will buy properties, they will buy off Rosso, and then that will make us second class citizens. Furthermore, we also believe by just selling our passports indiscriminately, it is deflating the value of Dominica's birthright. So that, amongst other reasons, we believe that we really need to study the CBI program thoroughly and to come up with certain policies whereby over a period of time we can move away from that program. In any
So,
case, the program is
so
very
no, no.
good.
Before we move from that, because I had that to ask you about.
Right.
Are you so? For example, Ralph Gonzalez in St. Vincent says we're not selling our passports. Okay? There are countries in the world that have economic citizenship programs. Like for example, the US has one, but they have very strict criteria. You have to come in and make an investment of a certain amount in an area that has great need and provide X amount of employment, and then you qualify to apply for permanent residency. And then, so where is the philosophy that we would eventually go away from it? Like some people say, we would make it more transparent, would make it more, you would operate it more responsibly. Do you think, does your party think that in the landscape of Dominica, 10 years from now, that there is still a place for a CBI program?
Well, first of all, our idea is not to eliminate the CBI program suddenly, because you would appreciate that the CBI program right now is the major source of funding for a number of government approved projects. As we speak, the international airport under construction in Dominica is funded by CBI, by the CBI. We have schools, clinics, amongst other infrastructural development projects which are funded by the CBI. So it would be irresponsible for a new government to get into office and suddenly shut down the program without making provisions for sustainable funding. However, we believe in the short term that we definitely must make the program more transparent, because if we don't and we do not account for the process from the CBI program, as as we have witnessed with the European, with the UK, more measures will be taken against our citizens in respect to our passports, and this could be very detrimental to Dominicans on a whole, and eventually the CBI program, because already there are threats that if we do not take certain steps and we do not adhere to the steps, our passports will not be recognized by several countries, and therefore the benefit of the CBI program will be eroded and the revenues will eventually disappear. So what we are looking at is short term, medium term, and long term. As I said, we're hoping that in the long term we can move away from the CBI program if it does not naturally follow it, because there is already suspicion that this program will not generate the kind of revenue that it has done for the past 10 to 20 years.
All right. So you mentioned the international airport.
Mhm.
Um, Is that a project that a progressive party government would have undertaken in the manner in which it would have been undertaken? And if not, how would the approach be different?
Well, first of all, we believe in transparency. We have a government that entered into a contract with a well known gentleman who has been basically given economic power in Dominica to manage most government projects. And we are aware that that particular gentleman subcontracted to a Chinese company. We are also aware that this gentleman operates a company which is involved in the sale of Dominican citizenship. We are further aware that the revenue generated by that particular company is not being captured and under the oversight of the Parliament of Dominica. And a number of us have raised concerns perpetually about that practice. That practice creates an opaque type of governance. It creates a very muddy political field in that the ordinary person is not aware as A, the exact amount of money that man makes from the sale of our citizenship, B, where that money is saved, C, the cost of the government projects versus the revenue that he generates, the profit margin that he makes. Those are basic things that the nation should be aware of. So there has been quite a lack of transparency and accountability in respect to the CBI program, particularly with that entity. So a government by the Progressive Party would definitely shed light on those things, bring transparency, accountability, and integrity in the program. Because after all, a passport or a citizenship of Dominica is considered to be a public good, meaning that it's owned by the people of Dominica. And if what is owned by you and by me is being sold, we have a right to know everything about it. And that is how I would like the nation to look at it. The passports are not owned by any government. It's a public good, it's a public feature. And by virtue of the fact that it's public in nature, then there should be transparency because you are a stakeholder. And unfortunately, the call for transparency in respect to the CBI program has not been very loud. And I suppose over time, Dominicans will fully appreciate why there has been a consistent call by certain advocates from the opposition side for
Right.
transparency.
Okay. So I think we've covered quite a bit of ground that I think the audience has a good idea of the approach and the philosophy of the Progressive Party. Um, I'm I'm going to take a break because we will half an hour in. Get a word from the sponsors. When we come back, we want to talk about electoral reform.
Right.
I have very very strong views about electoral reform, but I want to hear what is yours and your party's philosophy on electoral reform, and also we will circle back and just talk about the general environment that exists right now. We will go a little deeper into the relationship that you expect to be able to develop with the opposition parties in Dominica and so on. So, folks, I want you to stay with us. A very short commercial break. And we have to say thank you to our sponsors. And when we come back, I'm going to continue with my guest, Mr. Joshua Francis. He's an attorney at law, and he's a spokesperson for a brand new political party called the United Progressive Party. And we're exploring the position in the dropping of this party in the opposition political landscape. What is that is that beneficial? Is it detrimental? Does it give Labour Party a better chance to remain in power? Does it provide an option that gives people an option to remove them from power? We're going to be talking about continue this candid conversation. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Presented by.
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
How much Dominican history do you know? Want to learn some fun facts? We have a great and fun way to test your knowledge and learn more about our history. Get your copy of Dominic Anu, Dominica in Puzzle. Fun for the whole family. Available now on Amazon.com. Visit pushpast10.com to learn more. Email us at dominicainpuzzle@gmail.com or call 877-698-9894. Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back, folks, and we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Particularly, Man's Audiovisual has been collaborating with us at TDN and our sister companies for years now, and we highly recommend them for all your social media and your promotional material. From as small as making your business cards, for example, what we have up on the screen right now, all the way to full-fledged production where they show up with their fancy equipment in uniform, record, and give you a whole fully finished product that post-production editing and all of that. They can go from basic all the way up. You've seen the videos that we've circulated that is done by Man's Audiovisual. So they come very, very highly recommended. Contact them for everything that you do. If you have a restaurant and you have a screen where you want to show your menu, they can do that for you. They can give you your business cards, your flyers, all your promotional material. I highly recommend Man's Audio Visual. Check them out, see what they do. Check out their Facebook page and so on. All right. So my guest tonight is Mr. Joshua Francis, attorney at law, and he is the spokesperson for the Progressive Party, a brand new party in Dominica. And I thought it was a good idea to bring him on and to have him introduce his party to you. It's not necessarily an endorsement on my part, neither or anyway. But I have my own opinions. I personally don't think it's a bad idea to have a new party. We there's a cliche that goes around that says that if you continue to do the same thing over and over, you keep getting the same results. And so if the existing environment has not been able to unseat the incumbent Labour Party from power for the last 25 years, maybe there's something else that we should do. And giving other options could be that as well. As Joshua said, in the 80s, when Freedom Party seemed unbeatable, they had been in power for 15 years. The United Workers' Party came on the scene, and within 7 years, they had unseated the Freedom Party. Could we have said that the United Workers' Party would be diluting the opposition vote, and therefore the Freedom Party would have remained in power forever? I don't believe that. I believe that let all views contend, and the leaders have an obligation to come together and to find a way to collaborate and to present sufficient differences between them and the incumbent. They have a responsibility to be able to inspire a vision in the people that is very different from the reality that they are currently experiencing, that will let the people look at them as an alternative and decide to give them a chance at the reins of power. And so, Joshua, what is the process of forming a political party in Dominica? And have you guys gone through that process? Are you an official political party? You're muted.
Oh,
Yes, go
sorry.
ahead. Go
Where
ahead.
do
We
I
can hear
go?
you. We can hear you. Go
You
ahead.
can hear me. Okay. Yeah. So the Progressive Party of Dominica is officially recognized by the Election Commission.
Okay.
Um, just to answer your question, any group of persons can come together to form a political party. However, to get official recognition, that group of persons who are interested in being recognized as a political party must meet certain requirements under the House of Assembly regulations of the Commonwealth of Dominica. And amongst those requirements, an interim executive would have to be presented to the chief elections officer. So the names of the executive members, a president, a secretary, general executive office. Further, there must be an address for that group, an address where the group can be served, an office address, whether in Roseau, it could be anywhere in Dominica. And also, there must be evidence that the group would have met over a period of time and certain decisions would have been taken. Because you have to take into consideration that the chief election officer does not want to recognize any group as a political party unless if there is evidence that that group is serious. It has a certain uh, number of members. It must also provide the names of at least a caretaker for a few constituencies. If the 21 constituencies, great, but at least 10 constituencies. So names of persons must be presented, IDs must be provided to authenticate the names, and upon satisfaction of those conditions to the chief elections officer, he then goes ahead to issue a formal letter of recognition. Now, I must say, in addition to the names of the executives, there must also be a copy of the party's constitution. And I feel honored to say that the Progressive Party of Dominica has the most voluminous and thorough constitution. That's just an idea. You can see the the scope of this. So there's a lot of writing in there. There are captures which does not exist in the other political parties' constitution. One of which is an environmental secretary. We recognize the environment as being pivotal in the future of Dominica, and as such, even within our constitution, we make provision for an environment secretary. We also have things in our constitution that speaks to equal rights. As you know, the world recognizes quite a number of rights, so we provided a constitution which captures the entire social landscape. We feel that nobody ought to be left out. So when we, just to go back to the chief elections officer, so when we provided all that information to the chief elections officer, we received a correspondence from the same on May 8th, 2024, that reads, it says, to whom it may concern, this is to certify that under Regulation 4.2 of the House of Assembly Elections Regulations, the United Progressive Party is recognized political party in the Commonwealth of Dominica with effect from May 8th, 2024. In this regard, the party has been allocated the bottle as its symbol. Accordingly, the official candidates or candidates of the party in each constituency shall be entitled to have the party symbol printed opposite his or her name on the ballot paper. Please be guided accordingly. So,
Congratulations.
yes, thank you. So we have been both. This is no longer a concept. All right. The fetus is no longer in the womb. It has sprung into a baby, and we are now considered to be a baby party. We are new to the scene, but we have individuals with vast political experience, and more importantly, people who have care, love, and concern for the ordinary person in Dominica. And that is why we are in this. This is not only for philosophical and ideological banter. This is about making contribution to improve lives of the people in Dominica, particularly ordinary people, because for too long we think that the ordinary man in Dominica has not gotten his place where he belongs. We believe that the marginalization of men needs to be addressed. We believe that women need to be further empowered. Young people need to be provided with more opportunities. We need to create an environment where dreams can be realized. We need to create an environment where the many Dominicans like you, Anthony, trained personnel, intelligent personnel, can return to Dominica to make a meaningful contribution, hence to develop Dominica and take it to the next level.
So, well, I already told you congratulations, and also so is Karel Dangoben saying it's about time. Congratulations. Um, I saw a comment from Joanne Green saying spokesperson and our next PM, and I endorse him all the way forward. What's your position in the party? What position do you hold in the party?
Well, currently, as indicated and you told the public, I'm a spokesperson.
Okay,
I I am not too sure. I don't serve an executive role at this hour. In any event, our executive is in an interim
right, right.
mode. We're hoping that at some point, well, we will have a delegate conference, and at that delegate conference, a political leader will be elected amongst other party officials, and the party would have bloomed into some level of maturity and to take care of the people's business, which would be to go all around the island to inform the public why support needs to be given to this new party.
So does
And
your constitution, does your constitution give you a restriction as to like a time limit by when you have to have that delegates conference?
Well, not the first one, but thereafter it does. It provides limits, it
Mhm.
provides time, it provides the conditions and the structure that must be used in having those types of delegate conference.
So
Um,
eventually you will have a political leader, you will
yes,
have a president, a chairman of your party, and
correct.
all of those rules.
Yes, correct.
Let me
So,
ask you a question that's
yes,
going to lead into the next area I want to explore.
mhm.
When you do establish those positions, especially the position of political leader, which
Mhm.
usually translates almost automatically into prime minister if that party were to get the majority of seats, does the political leader, according to your constitution, is there a term limit on the number of terms that a political leader can serve?
Yes, well, I am happy that you asked that question because again, we want to lead by example. And you spoke about getting into the conversation about electoral reform.
Right.
And we have been listening to the public, and we are cognizant that a number of people think that there should be term limits for prime ministers. And in that respect, by adopting that notion, we believe that we ought to have placed this in our constitution. So we do have it in our constitution, whereby we have stated that a political leader is not allowed to serve for more than 2 terms, except if the general council agrees to give him another term. So whoever serves as leader of the Progressive Party, if after 2 terms he or she fails to become the prime minister, then that person naturally has to be replaced. The person has to resign and make room for a new leader. Should that person become the prime minister after 1 term, let's just say person A becomes the first political leader, and on the first attempt, he or she fails to become the prime minister. On the next occasion, if he or she succeeds, then he would serve out that 5 years or 4 years, whatever. So that will make it 2 terms, and therefore he will be ripe for stepping down. However, the general council of the party would take into consideration the fact that he would be serving his first term as a prime minister and could extend to another term, but not more than 2 terms. So, in other words, we believe in 2 terms for a prime minister, and it starts within our party.
Yeah, I like that answer because that segue directly into electoral reform, and I'm going to I'm going to insert my position on that. In my
Right.
opinion, unless a party is going to come and talk about term limits and a fixed date for election, I am not interested in any conversation with that person about electoral reform. And so I firmly believe that that is why we have made no progress in electoral reform in Dominica. Of course, the government uses the status quo to win elections, so they have no interest in electoral reform. But in my opinion, what is being proposed as electoral reform is not electoral reform. It is mostly an enforcement of the rules that's already there and maybe a little clarification on what it means to be absent for 5 years. True political
Right.
reform, in my opinion, has to include term limits and a fixed date for election. So, is that something the Progressive Party is committing to do as one of the first things that they would do when they get the reins of government if they were given that opportunity?
Well, yes, the Progressive Party believes in equity, it believes in fairness, It believes in human dignity and human freedom. And the electoral process is considered to be sacred in our party because, after all, a vote is an expression of someone's conscience. And that expression can determine the quality of his life for at least a 5 year period. And as such, with the Progressive Party, we believe that should we be granted that opportunity sometime in the future, that whatever amendment that would have occurred or whatever reform that would have occurred, if there are shortcomings, we definitely would advance those reforms to make the electoral space more equitable, more
But
fair, and more
speak
free.
specifically about term limits for prime minister for me.
Well, first of all, term limits are spoken of in the Constitution of Dominica.
It does.
The Constitution, well, when I say term limits, the Constitution provides for a prime minister to serve as many terms as he so desires. In other words, there isn't any constraint, there isn't any barrier.
Right.
So if we were to put a term limit, then it means that we will need to amend the Constitution of Dominica. So this is a constitutional matter. And this is only possible if a party has a majority in parliament, at least two-thirds majority. And furthermore, something of that significance is more likely to be placed on a referendum, to place on the national table, to get the impulse of the nation, to get the pulse of the nation, sorry, in determining whether the country would like term limits.
Okay, so I hear all of that. What I'm trying to get from you is a
Mhm.
commitment that that is something that will be pursued by the Progressive Party.
Well, definitely, if the Progressive Party were to form the majority in Parliament and it has the requisite two-thirds,
No, no,
it would
no. You,
definitely
you
be
you
tabled.
can you can push it, and then if it gets defeated because you don't get it to first, that's a different story.
Well,
But
yes,
is that
yes.
something that would be? Is that a commitment that you would put that as a priority and say this is something that we think is necessary in our political landscape?
Oh, yes. Well, as I told you, it's if I'm allowed to read from the party from the Progressive Party's constitution, Section 8, subsection 1, party leader. Number 11, it says the political leader cannot serve more than two consecutive elections terms. So, by virtue of the fact that we recognize term limits in our constitution, we would have to be consistent with the constitution of the island. But as I said, that would require constitutional
Yeah,
amendment.
yeah, we understand
Right.
the
But
mechanism for that.
definitely, we do advocate for term limits because we believe that any one prime minister having served 3, 4 terms would naturally suffer from political fatigue. And
Mhm.
in every area of life, football, basketball, sports, academia, when one serves in one position over a period of time, naturally he suffers diminishing returns. And it is evident in Dominica, where politicians, having served terms after terms in parliament, would naturally eventually lose the passion for the people, lose the love for the people, lose the care for the people, and lose sometimes the integrity that is required to govern a country properly. So we do advocate for term limits, and we are very well practicing based on our constitution.
It's in your constitution. I like that. I
Yes.
like that. I like that very much. So let's talk about the election, the political. In the promotion I put
Mhm.
opposition politics. I got called,
Mhm.
believe it or not, that says what is opposition politics? And my answer to that is any political opinion or action that is not in favor of the incumbent government should be considered opposition, right? So it could be official politics, it could be independent, it could be social movement, any
Mhm.
action or opinion. And so when I talk about opposition politics, it's in that context that
Mhm.
I'm referring to it. And so you were a member of the United Workers Party, a high-ranking member. You were deputy leader. Most people saw you in line to take over the leadership. Um, like everything else, marriages, divorce, bands break up, cricket teams mash up. Um, you parted ways with them. And now that you come back with your own party, so to speak, how would you approach seeking collaboration with that with that party, um, in a sense, say to speak, bury the hatchet and put the what you guys. I would hope that you'll be able to find common ground in terms of what you all believe is best for the country, for the people on a whole. How would you approach, or have, if you have approach and you feel to talk about it, feel free. But how would you approach the former party, your former party, the Freedom Party, and then all the other opposition for parties, Munsewe, CCM, all of those opposition forces of significance that exist in the country to try to take some leadership in really putting an option before the people that is viable.
Right. I admire the eloquence with which you made your points in respect to the background of my relationship with the United Workers' Party, but I just want to punctuate a point of correction. I think it would be more accurate to say that the United Workers' Party parted ways with Joshua Francis, because a few years ago, the United Workers' Party took an executive decision to suspend Joshua Francis, and Joshua Francis was never re-invited back into the United Workers' Party. But
Ah, mhm.
having said that, the Progressive Party is not adverse to work with any political party in Dominica. A matter of fact, we would welcome conversations at some point. But like every political entity, we are in the process of developing our identity and our character. You cannot only have a paper party. If you say your party and you do not have members, you do not have a base, then it means that you cannot be a stakeholder on the table. So for us to have any meaningful dialogue with other political entities in Dominica, we must first develop our political identity, our political base, our political principles, our political philosophies, to name a few, all of which are under construction. But we do envision that at some point, the Progressive Party will have a conversation with the other opposition parties in a common interest to remove the political cancer that has been seated in Dominica for over 20 years. We have no difficulties in having that kind of conversation, and we do hope that all opposition entities and persons will work with a common goal. But of course, you would be aware that such attempts have been made in the past, but certain opposition players find it very difficult to work collectively with other forces. Some people prefer to work by themselves. I cannot speak for other political parties, but I do hope if we get to that point, that even those who had not been willing to work with other political parties would have to had a change of mind so that we can get a new government, a new economy, a new vision, and a new Dominica.
Ronald Sabruch says, we know what it takes to have a collaboration of parties, but we are working on our own party base and principles. I'm assuming by that statement that Ronald is affiliated with the Progressive Party.
Well, he has declared, he said, our party. I think he cannot be clearer than that.
Yeah, be clearer than that. But let me, for a point,
Yes.
how this man said it when he put one of the nails in the coffin of our economy, to remove all doubt. You know, that's a famous statement when Roosevelt Skerritt announced the loss of Ross University to Dominica. He said, for the removal of all doubt, or heads up, he said, or something like that. Whatever.
Right.
You said you were suspended by United Workers Party. What happened subsequently? Did you resign? Did you what? I mean, because if it's
Well,
just a suspension, you should still be considered a member of the party.
right. So after the general election of 2019, having gone through a lot of personal turmoils and political setbacks, including losing the Newton constituency, I decided it was in my best interest to take a break from politics. I felt that had I not taken that break, had I not suspended my political activity, then I would sink in the ocean and find it very difficult to survive. And as such, I informed the party that I was going on a break. I
Hmm.
would not serve at any executive level. A matter of fact, I was an executive member, so I asked that I be relieved of all such duties.
But did
And
you
then,
resign from the party as a member of the
no,
party?
I did not resign as a member. And sometime in 2020, 21, I was having this conversation with a few friends and acquaintances under mango tree, under the mango tree, unbeknownst to me that I was being recorded. And of course, you know the story.
Mm.
The United Workers' Party was of the view that my opinion was offensive, particularly to a given individual, and took the decision to suspend me. And I had been out of the party, and then I told you how the Progressive Party started.
Right,
But
right. No, no.
things
But
in the
before we go
past,
to that, so
yeah,
is it necessary for you to officially resign as a member of the United Workers' Party?
no, you don't. There's no need. I'm not aware that the United Workers' Party constitution provides for a member to tender a letter of resignation. A matter
Okay.
of fact, what I'm aware of is
Mhm.
if you're a member and you're not a paying member, then naturally your membership collapses and
Or it
dies.
drops out. Okay, so you no
Right,
longer so you
right,
it's all clean. You
right.
absolutely certain that you're no longer a member of the United Workers Party. Somebody's asking, can you let us know who is your party executive membership?
Well, had the person been present earlier, the person would have heard me stated that what we do have right now is an interim executorship. That the party will have a delegate conference where the executive members, including a political leader, will be elected.
Hmm. All right.
So
So
the
I'm
the
getting from
executive
that that
we
you're
have
not
is just for the purpose of
right.
registering the party, which is a requirement to be recognized as a political party in
The
Dominica.
political party. All right. So let's move on to current contemporary developments. Right.
Mhm.
As we said earlier, there are two members of parliament who don't belong to the Labour Party, and so they are considered opposition. And along with them, four senators, is it? Is it four senators?
Correctly,
Uh,
yes.
yeah. So the official parliamentary opposition right now consists of six members, two elected and four appointed. Um, the appointments they serve at the whims and fancy of the two elected, because we've seen where Sean Douglas was originally appointed as senator and then his appointment was rescinded and so on. One of those two has openly declared his affiliation, or we say membership, um, with the Progressive Party. And out of that, there seem to have stemmed some sort of rupture where right now the country is left without an official leader of the opposition, for whatever that is worth. Um, how are you involved with your affiliated opposition member? How I mean, there's an opportunity there to show guidance and leadership. How do we resolve that stalemate?
All right, so that's a very important question for the nation because it would be nice if we do have a leader of the opposition. A matter of fact, Section 66 of the Constitution of Dominica says that, and we shall have a leader of the opposition, but of course, subject to certain terms and conditions. To answer your question directly, first and foremost, let me say that Anthony Charles, the Member of Parliament for the Marigot constituency, is a wonderful human being. He's sincere, he's genuine, and he has good character. And for me personally, I believe those traits augur well for politics in Dominica because for too long we have political drivers inspired by material benefits and not love for the people. In Anthony, I see a gentleman who cares about people. And it was only by destiny that he found himself in Parliament. Having said that, it is global that when Anthony became a member of Parliament for the Marigot constituency, he was elected as an independent. He is not a member of any party. However, he did enter into a social agreement with the people of Marigot, whereby he signed a statutory declaration declaring that when he enters parliament, that he would not cross the floor or join the Labour Party. That he has not breached. Though the agreement is not legally enforceable, but for the purpose of good faith and integrity, Anthony has not breached that agreement. But Anthony decided, based on his constitutional rights, that he was going to become a member of the Progressive Party, and that he did. And once he became a member of the Progressive Party, clearly it created angst and some level of anxiety among certain members of the opposition rank and file. And it is alleged that certain persons are advisors to Jesma Victor, who served as the leader of the opposition for the first 18 months, and having executed an agreement whereby after that 18 months she would naturally support Anthony to become the next leader of the opposition for the following 18 months. She chose not to provide that support. She rescinded, she revoked her support by being part of a letter which was written to the president of Dominica, together with her senators, saying that they are nominating her to be re-elected. Of course, that backfired, that did not work. And we now have a situation where Anthony has not pledged support to Jesma, nor Jesma has pledged her support to Anthony to be nominated and appointed by the president of Dominica. So until such time, should we have that stalemate, we will not have a leader of the opposition. And for those who know political history in Dominica, it is not the first time that we'll be going for a period absent an opposition leader. It would be in the best interest of the nation to have an opposition leader, but with the current situation, we don't have one. And there are many lessons to learn from that. Of course, the Constitution speaks to the nomination and appointment of an opposition leader. There are different legal views, but it would appear the more popular view is that a senator does not have the authority to influence who could be the leader of the opposition. A senator does not have the authority to participate in a vote of no confidence, etc. And you'd understand why. Of course, there are dissenting views, but it is a court of law that determines which is the overriding proper interpretation of the Constitution. So for those who are aggrieved by the decision of the President of Dominica, the court is open for ventilation and for determination within the legal interpretations.
So I get all that, right?
Yes.
Are there constitutional attorneys in Dominica?
Well, yes, we have learned and colorful constitutional attorneys. We have
For
the
example,
luminary Tony Astafan, a public attorney well known in the Caribbean.
I know, but he specializes in constitutional law.
Yes, he does. He has done many constitutional matters. He's a public lawyer. Cara Schillingford has done several constitutional matters right now. She actually is the shining star in constitutional law in Dominica. And you have other attorneys that have done several constitutional matters. You have Don Yewood, you have Gina Dyer Monroe, just to name a few.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone so wishes to challenge the decision of the president, the court is open.
Now, is there a special court that does constitutional? So, for example, in the U.S., constitutional matters is handled by the Supreme Court. In fact, that's the purpose of the Supreme Court, is to interpret interpret matters in the light of the Constitution. If someone were to take this up as a constitutional matter, what is the legal route? If I'm asking you just because you're an attorney, if you're familiar with what would be the legal route.
Yeah, well, we do not have a specialized constitutional court. We have the criminal courts and we have the civil courts. That is for high courts. Of course, we have the magistrate court that deals with both criminal and civil law. In our high courts, the civil division, we would file a constitutional motion, and the attorney general representing the state would respond, and it would go through case management, submissions, applications, amongst other motions may be moved in court, and the judge would hear the matter and determine who is right and who is wrong based on his or her interpretation. If
All right.
that litigant is unsuccessful, you have the Court of the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal, either side, and then
Right,
you can
but
go
is
to
that
CCP.
would that then be a matter for the Caribbean Court of Justice to go directly to them to interpret the constitution?
Well, special leave can be given for matters, but I'm not too sure whether that matter would be one of them. I would have to do some research on the issue,
Right,
but
because
special leave can be given.
the CCJ has that role in terms of the Treaty of Chaguaramas and to put it in context of each country's constitution. Um,
Well, the
so
CCJ has what is referred to as an original jurisdiction which deals with the Treaty of Chaguaramas,
mhm,
but that matter would not be a concern of the interpretation of the treaty in
mhm,
terms of economic differences between between countries. This would be a constitutional matter and would come under the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ.
yeah,
But
appellate
I
jurisdiction.
will tell you, Anthony, we are talking about court and so on and so forth. But this matter could easily be resolved with both parties surrounded by statesmen and women. And I say statesmen and women, meaning that people who do not have political access to grind, to have a conversation and with these two parties and come up with some kind of solution. Because we sometimes try to settle our differences in court even before we attempt to have a civil conversation. And because politics in Dominica has become hyper tribalistic, you're finding now that within the opposition, you have rivalries. And this is unfortunate. If someone is aggrieved by the action or inaction of an opposition person, one would think that the aggrieved party would simply give a call. Mr. Sir, you said something on the radio. You did this, you did that. Let's have a conversation. I disagree. This is my view. And they can come to some kind of settlement. And it's not too late for the member of Salisbury and the member of Marigot to have a conversation in the presence of a mediator, as I said, someone who does not have a personal political axe to grind.
No, no, I agree with you 100%, and I'm very happy that you went there without me asking you because that's where I was
Mhm.
going to go next.
Mhm.
Except I was going to put it in this format that if the opposition body politics is not able to manage a team of six, how can they hope to inspire confidence in the nation that they can run a government and a country? And
Well, yeah.
that speaks directly to what you're saying, because if what to me should be a simple matter to resolve, you and I have an agreement and I met my end of the agreement. I supported you for 18 months, and then it was your turn to support me, but you are superseding your commitment to me with a commitment. And I'm saying that on the premise that what the background that you laid out is correct. If we assume that the way you laid out is correct, it appears as though the member for Salisbury is superseding her commitment to the folks who are not happy with the member from Marigot affiliating with a particular party. And so that seems like it's something that should be easily resolved, especially in the context of the fact that the opposition forces in parliament don't have a lot of power. They are two elected members to 19. There are six members in total to how many is on the government side. And so, yes, it's the power of being able to speak and being there and creating a presence and bringing your representation. But there's not a lot at stake, you know? And so
Right.
I think that that is something that should be easily resolved.
Yeah, well, we cannot go back to stop what happened. But had there been maturity amongst those who advised, or if the member for Salisbury acted on her own volition, I don't know. She could, or her advisors could have informed her to have a conversation with the member for Marigot. But that did not happen. As I said, it's not too late. Both
Not at
parties
all.
can come.
Not at
It's
all. It's
not too
not too
late.
late. No.
And this is what we need, Anthony. The opposition is already marginalized. In parliament, you have these two independent persons. And I'm not too sure whether it is correct to say that they are under the management of any political party. They may have advisors from existing opposition political parties and maybe even members from the government, because after all, both members are independent. I can speak for the member for Marigot because I'm affiliated with him. I speak with him regularly, and I can say to you that he is in fact truly independent, in that he his motto is to work for the Marigot people. He does not call members from different sides to ask for advice, except on certain occasions when it's in the best interest of his constituency. And even when he calls to get advice, he has a mind of his own. So, having said that, it would be nice if opposition persons could have conversations for the benefit of the opposition, to give the opposition a better chance at the next general election.
Yeah, and I think that there's potential for this situation to create a lot of harm, a lot more harm to the political parties involved than any loss that they would incur if she just honors her agreement and allows Mr. Charles to serve as opposition leader for the next 18 months.
Well,
But
Anthony, yeah, sorry for stick. I want to comment on that because your point is it's a glorious point, and we must put the light on that point so that the whole world can see that point. You are speaking to integrity, you're speaking to transparency, you're speaking to good faith, political behavior that is much needed in Dominica. For too long, we have had a political environment where certain people think it is cool to crook, to backstab, and to betray. And too often we have certain politicians who think on emotions and not on science. And I'm saying this to say that if only most of us, if not all of us, could appreciate the point. Here it is, the member of Salisbury entered into an arrangement on which she stood as the leader of the opposition. In other words, it is Anthony's support to her which was scripting that agreement, that the president, as it were then, the Honorable Excellency Charles Savoy, appointed the member of Salisbury as the leader of the opposition. And therefore, by virtue of the fact that she enjoyed the benefit of the member of Marigold's performance, it would be natural that she allows the member of Marigot to enjoy his 18 months. People can change their minds, and nobody, cannot put the member of Salisbury on gunpoint to say you cannot change your mind, because really, this is not a court of law. It's an issue of morals. It's an issue of ethics. But even then, she could justify her position. But the right thing would be to call a gentleman to say, Anthony, I am not impressed, or we are not impressed with your performance in Parliament. Furthermore, we understand that you have declared yourself as a member of the Progressive Party, which you believe is contrary to your platform when you stood as an independent candidate at the 2022 election, and allow Anthony to be heard. A conversation could ensue. There could be other persons involved. And at the end of it, she could justify her position and said, Anthony, irrespective of what you have just said or what you have been saying, I no longer provide that support to you. And life goes on. But the untidiness in which that was done, where Anthony not aware of any meeting by the member of Salisbury and the other senators. And it appeared clearly that the senators and the member of Salisbury wrote a letter to the president asking that the member of Salisbury be reappointed as the leader of the opposition. Without Anthony knowing. Anthony only got to know, and I'm speaking confidently, and I'm sure at some point Anthony will speak for himself, but he only got to know about the situation when the 20th of June arose, which would have given it 18 months since the member of Salisbury was the leader of the opposition. She tendered a resignation, and Anthony expected that in that very letter, she would have given him support for him to be appointed as leader of the opposition, but it was absent. And he kept wondering what's happening. He kept asking. Nobody's telling him anything until those famous letters infamous letters got into the public. And then he
Mm.
realizes, but wait a minute. I am saying that let us hope moving forward that we do not continue with that type of politics. Managing a country comes with responsibility. And for those who are involved in politics, we have to understand that we must bring a level of selflessness. This is not about us. This is about the child in Silver Lake. This is about the Rasta man on the mountain in Mountain Granby. This is about the farmer lady in Cassibros. This is about the Kalinago fisherman. It's not about us. And therefore, we must and ought to have a level of maturity as politicians, and even where we have a different view, to be able to let views contend and have a civil conversation and come to some kind of conclusion, again in the interest of the nation.
Or civil disagreement.
Yeah, a civil disagreement.
No, that is so important
Mhm.
because the biggest cry from the opposition politicians is about the corruption and lack of transparency and one man wealth and one person and self, fulfill of one man.
Mhm.
And so to see that lack of the, integrity, if you want to call it that, or not being able to stick to a commitment, and people change their mind. That's why there are
Yes,
courts.
yes, people
But
can change their
but
minds.
but you can do it in a civil manner because there are two elected members in the opposition. So let us just say, for instance, let us just say for an instant that it it was possible for the senators and the member for Salisbury to have succeeded in getting her reappointed as leader of the opposition. Right away, you've ostracized the only other elected member in parliament. You've created an animosity, you've created an enemy
Mhm.
because you did not discuss with him why you are reneging on the agreement that you have.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
therefore, now you go into parliament, there are two independent candidates in parliament, and they cannot get along because one feels aggrieved and one feels justified in what she did. And so, where does that leave the country? Where does that leave the business of the people who you have sworn to represent? And so, it's extremely instructive that if that's the attitude, what happens if those people, the political opposition, now becomes government? How differently would they govern from what is already existing? You understand? Let me
Right.
read a comment by Ronald because he was asking to call in. I told him it's not a calling program. So he says Anthony from Marigot is working as an independent candidate for the Marigot constituency, as he made the statement very clear. Now the arrangements between them should and has to be accepted and honored. I guess that's what he's saying, right?
Mhm.
And so Anthony Charles is on there. He says, "One Dominica, let's move our country forward. Simple as that." Petra Carbon says, "I believe people have to keep their word to each other," and I agree. I agree. I agree that if you make a commitment when the sun is shining, you should not just change your mind because now rain is falling.
Yeah.
You cannot just be a fair weather person. And if your circumstances change, that in good conscience prevents you from being able to honor your agreement, there has to be an adult and mature way to sit down and have a conversation, as you said, and say why this new development makes it difficult for me to honor this agreement, and let's ventilate, and then hopefully there's a meeting of the minds and you and because everybody has to give a little so that we can all move forward. As Anthony Charles is saying, let's move our country forward. Simple as that. Put the country first. And Alvin Thomas kept making reference to statesmanship, and that's what a statesman or a stateswoman would do. What is in the best interest of Dominica? And I posit squarely that what is in the best interest of Dominica is a good working relationship among the official opposition. So the little satisfaction that you get by sticking your finger in Anthony Child's eyes. And that will result in animosity between just two members of the opposition. I don't think it's putting the country first. And it's
Well,
definitely not moving the country in a positive direction.
right, and hence the reason why we need to change the political behavior in Dominica. And that will only change by a change of leadership, not only in government, but in opposition, because leaders must lead by example. And when we do things properly, then the followers and supporters are more inclined to do things properly. And I want to acknowledge the presence of your viewers. I want to acknowledge certain members of the Progressive Party who are online. And I also want to acknowledge the distinguished Mr. Alvin Thomas, a man with high pedigree, high intelligence. And I only hope that he hangs around and he continues to make his contribution to Dominica. And of course, Sir Brooch, Anthony himself, the member for Maricot, you can see his humility, his statement to the point, and that's what he epitomizes: simplicity, love for people, and we need more of that in Parliament.
You
We need
definitely
more of
do.
that in leadership,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know. And I mean, I just want to share a little, narrative here. When this whole situation with the leader of the opposition arose, I felt bad that the UPP may have contributed to Anthony being deprived and denied of the opportunity to serve as leader of the opposition, at least for now. And I call up Anthony basically to say, Anthony, I'm sorry. And Anthony told me, it's okay. There's nothing to be sorry about. As a matter of fact, he has no regrets about what unfolded because he had no idea that certain persons around him would have betrayed him. So, it's like, okay, that's happened now. I'm learning because you're looking at a young man. He has no political experience. He may have been raised in a family with a politician. His father contested the Marigot constituency. He has a political history. But Anthony himself was thrown into the political ocean and he's only now learning to swim. And in that circumstance, here it is, he got this bitter pill to swallow. He has now humbled himself and he's taking it as a lesson. So I kind of felt relieved that he wasn't blaming Joshua Francis or the Progressive Party for the current situation.
So what I would say to that is people are of the opinion that there are folks around the member for Salisbury who are advising her. And they're expressing the view that those folks are members of United Workers' Party. Now, if that is true, then all of the things that we just said would be applicable to those folks. Put Dominica first. If that is not the case, United Workers' Party should take it upon itself to come out publicly and say, we are not the ones who's driving this bus. The young lady is an adult, she's an independent candidate, and she's making those decisions all on her own without, and so is the official position of the United Workers' Party. In other words, we are in Dominica having issues with the CBI program and saying that we are left to speculate because information is not being given to us so that we can make proper judgments and come to proper conclusions. We are therefore saying because of that, we are seeing malgovernance of the country and corruption and all that. This is a clear example where the United Workers' Party, in following that playbook, should be able to come out and say, this is the party's official position. So, to end the speculation, in the absence of accurate information, people speculate correctly or falsely. I think there's an opportunity for United Workers' Party, the most mature party in the opposition, to take some leadership on that issue and come out and say, listen, this is the United Workers' Party official position on this matter. We support Jasper Paul, or no, she's doing this on her own volition. She's not a member of the party, she's an independent candidate. Come out, make an official statement, clearly air, let folks form their own opinion, and help to move the matter forward. In the absence of doing something like that, where is the example that you are different from the incumbent party that you are trying to paint as being opaque and not forthcoming? That's what
Well,
I think about that.
well, Anthony, you're very courageous to make that statement, and I hope that there is a member of the United Workers' Party on this platform and maybe take the advice to the United Workers' Party. But I do not necessarily wish to say that it is the United Workers' Party that has advised the member for the Salisbury constituency.
Well, so just what I'm
Based
saying,
on,
if it's not them, they should come out and say it's not us.
I get you, because some people, and I can say clearly that quite a number of people have expressed suspicion that certain persons from the rank and file of the United Workers' Party may very well be advisor slash advisors to the member of Salisbury. But me personally, I don't have that evidence. But based on the point that you have made, it's reasonable. A matter of fact, it would be very appropriate for that clarification to occur in the public, not only for the party itself, for that particular party itself, but for the nation, because it's a simple matter that can be clarified. And as we have said, and I'll reiterate again, it's not too late for a civil discussion to take place and for the best decision to emerge in the best interest of Dominica. But Anthony, whilst you're on that point, equally, equally, I and the Progressive Party have been accused of helping Anthony to betray the people of Marigot. Let me make it categorically clear that myself or no member, jointly, severally, or collectively, in the Progressive Party believes in crookery, believes in deception, and believes in darkness. This is a party that started with transparency, and we intend to continue like that. We, and I can speak, I would say, I, Joshua Francis, I respect the people of Marigot. I believe that the Marigot community has produced some of the brightest minds in Dominica. Generally, Marigot persons are well read, the intellectuals are very sharp. It's a community that has made significant contributions to Dominica. And even as we speak, the Marigot Wesley Woodfordale area serve as the area for the international airport, a project hopefully which will open more economic doors for Dominica. So I want to say to the Marigot community that we are not in the business of crookery, and I'm not aware that Anthony crooked the Marigot people. What I see in Anthony is a gentleman who wants to continue to serve the Marigot people. And it's unfortunate to have heard utterances from a former member of parliament for the Marigot constituency indirectly speaking against Anthony. One would have thought that love starts at home and you would support your own, especially on an issue where Anthony is well deserving to be the member of the leader of the opposition. But I think we have, said enough on that,
Yeah, I
and
think
let's
so too. Yeah,
continue with that topic.
certainly. And of course, the people of Marigot
Mhm.
have the opportunity in the next election to elect anybody that they want to elect, whether they choose to re-elect Mr. Charles or whether they choose to elect whoever is the candidate for United Workers Party or the Progressive Party or the Labour Party, as it may. They have the opportunity to do that because he has not taken their vote and taken it to the other side. Because in Parliament, there are just two sides. There's the government side and there's the opposition side. He remains on the opposition side.
Exactly. And some people take issue to my comment, which I made at an interview, both on Q95 and on DBS Radio, when I said that the Progressive Party technically has a voice and or a seat in Parliament. When I made the comment, I expounded to say that Anthony, being a member, declared member of the Progressive Party and sitting in Parliament, would be able to advocate the policies of UPP. That was not a lie, but to interpret it as saying that we have a seat in Parliament, this is preposterous, because the reality is when Anthony was elected, he was independent. and he continues to sit independent in parliament. UPP did not even exist when Anthony was elected. UPP does not have any stake in parliament. It is just politics. And I think sometimes people take statements personally and they use it to justify foolishness. And this is one of the situations. There is no justification for what has happened to Anthony. There is no proper explanation. And it's unbecoming of certain persons in Dominica to call on national radio to justify what is a clear act of bad faith. I can use stronger words and I can use stronger legal words, but I won't. Again, I do not want to add salt
Yeah, there's no
to
reason to escalate.
right,
Yeah,
right. If anything, I want to de-escalate because that is what we want to do. We really want to coexist in the political space without the type of defeatism, the type of
acrimony. Yeah.
demonization,
Mhm.
right, and acrimony. It's not necessary.
Because
Politicians,
eventually there has to be collaboration because you're
yeah,
going to be facing a formidable foe in the incumbent government.
yeah, very formidable. 19 seats in parliament.
Yeah, yeah. And so someone is saying the president of United Workers' Party has already condemned the action of the opposition of the president, claiming that the president did not read the constitution as it was intended. But again, you said that is for legal minds to ventilate all of those things. Where we have come down to the essence, and we're going to move away from that topic, is that Joshua Francis and Anthony Drago had an agreement. I said, Joshua, I'm going to support you as captain of the team for 18 months. When that is over, you're going to support me as captain of the team for 18 months. In those 18 months, I didn't used to come to practice. I'm always drunk or whatever it is, and Joshua feels he in good conscience cannot support me to be captain despite our agreement. He has a responsibility to call me and to say, Anthony, I know we said this, but I don't think you'll be a good captain. You doesn't come to practice. None of them guys respect you. Blah 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 blah. Let me
Right,
continue as captain now. You know, there are
right.
ways to resolve, and that is where the issue is, and that's what we're saying. A mature people who are mature enough to represent communities should be able to function at that level. And
Indeed.
yeah, and so we'll leave it at that, and hopefully, um, clearer minds will prevail. Um, Egos will be subdued, and the we will not follow the example of the incumbent party and put Dominica second. We'll put Dominica first, and we'll resolve whatever differences we have to resolve. So
Indeed.
Joshua, how
Yes.
does how do people find more information about the Progressive Party? Do you have a website? How can people become members and so on? What information you have on that?
What I can say within the next few days and
Mm.
possibly weeks, the Progressive Party will have a website and will have social media presence where persons will learn more about the party. The party constitution will be up, the party's principles will be on display, and membership forms will be on display, and outline of how one can become a member of the Progressive Party will be on display. So we're asking the public to be patient with us. As I stated at the initial stages of this conversation, the Progressive Party is under construction and we want to create a very strong foundation. We are not a fly by night political entity. We are taking our time. We are making sure that the foundation is built properly and therefore that the party will be sustainable. It will live beyond Joshua Francis and his grandchildren. That is a long term project. In the short term, we are constructing party principles and positions which will add value to the political discussion in Dominica and further enhance democracy by giving people another option. When we get to the election period, we we act out of necessity in the interest of the nation. If it is in the interest of the nation that the Progressive Party sits with other opposition parties to discuss candidacies in different constituencies in Dominica, I cannot see our party being adverse to that idea because if we realize not that we wanted to confuse the public by using United to Progressive Party, because some people were concerned that by saying UPP, it is easy to mix it up with UWP. But the majority of the members of the Progressive Party were of the view that at this current juncture in Dominica, we are in need of unity more than ever. And it has to start with us. It has to start within the opposition. And this current debacle with the appointment of the leader of opposition is manifested evidence that we in the opposition must first start to be able to coexist, to be able to agree and disagree and have tolerance, but nonetheless work as a united team, a united force to remove this government in office. So the Progressive Party at this hour is about its identity development, and we are leading by example. Our mission statement is clear, our vision is clear, our objectives are clear, all distilled into one common objective, which is to help Dominicans' life be elevated. We see a Dominica where the standard of living for the ordinary man, the barefoot man, can be better. The resources are in the country. It's just a matter of a different governance style, a different vision for the country. And over time, we have no view that Dominica could be the best place in the whole wide world to reside.
Before I let you go, one of the things that got a lot of calls to me before the program was I asked the question on the promotion for the show: is the opposition politician, is the body politics on the opposition, are they ready for a change? In other words, if tomorrow Labour Party were to collapse under its own weight, or for whatever reason, is the opposition politics ready to step into that space and govern the country? From your vantage point, what would be your answer to that question?
Well, for us in the Progressive Party, we are in discussions with certain people of influence. And should these people join over the next few weeks, we will have enough competent people who can form a cabinet to give Dominica the type of governance to elevate the quality of life in our country. However, if there were to be an election next month or in the next 2 months, and by divinity the opposition forces through a coalition were to form the government, I am of the humble view that there are competent persons from the respective opposition parties that could come together to form a cabinet that could manage Dominica's affairs in its best interest.
So your answer
So
is yes, they're ready for change.
yes, we're ready for change, but there's work to be done.
There's work to be
And
done.
one of the reasons why the Progressive Party emerged is because of deficiencies in certain opposition circles. And some people are very stubborn in their ways. You can't do the same thing and expect different results. You can't do the same thing and expect different results. So we have the view that even if the progressive party's role is to inspire others to do better, we would have added value to politics in Dominica. We are on our way. We are looking forward to interact with the public. We are looking forward to go into the nook and crannies of Dominica in every part of the island, the north, the east, the west, to bring a message of hope, to bring a message of political and economic salvation, to bring a message that will inspire Dominicans to follow us and to work towards a change of government. We are not there yet. It's a process, but we are confident that we'll get there.
Okay. Um, we have indulged you quite a bit. I had you for almost 2 hours now, so I'm going to let
Yes.
you go. There's a question about the diaspora, but what I'm going to say to that is, once you have once you have developed the party a little bit more, I'm going to give you an invitation to come back, and where we can focus more on the party, we can drill down. You have some published material out there that people can reference, and we can have that discussion. Because like you, I think that I think that the Dominica can benefit from a revolution in the opposition politics. We did a revolution to change government, but I think before that revolution, the revolution has to happen in the forces that are proposing themselves as alternative. And just case in point, a simple matter like the leader of the opposition, the way it is, that's not being managed properly. That's being butchered. To me, that speaks to the lack of, I don't know. In other words, there should be somebody who could step in as a broker and iron that out, because I don't think it's such a huge issue. You know what I mean? And so that tells me that there's some work to do on the readiness. And so I congratulate you and your colleagues for on the formation of your party, and we look forward to positive change happening, and better options being put in front of the people that can inspire them to vote for an alternative that would overcome any importation of votes, any voting by dead people as it's claimed. All of those shenanigans that has been claimed wins the election for the last 20 years. That you will inspire such a vision in the people that it will overcome all of those conditions. So Joshua, I'm going to give you the last few minutes to make some closing remarks, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Okay, Anthony, first and foremost, let me thank you for the opportunity to be present in your program. I am honored, and on behalf of the Progressive Party, I want to say thank you. We are very grateful, and we look forward to have many programs with you, which will allow us to disseminate our party's position and policies to the public. I do want to answer Mr. Thomas in respect to the diaspora. Again, I was looking at the Constitution to get the section which deals primarily with the diaspora. Our Constitution actually provides for a diaspora representative to sit on our General Council. And we see the relevance of the diaspora because we know that Dominica has more trained and talented people out than inside. And these people should be allowed to make a contribution to Dominica. Hence the reason why we believe that in as much as we are looking for electoral reform, we have to do it in such a way not to disenfranchise any Dominican who wishes to come in the country and to participate in the electoral process. We believe that at some point we could have a brain bank, and we're hoping that as a party, as a progressive party, we can sell that idea and create a brain bank where our trained individuals, our skilled, semi-skilled professionals can come together to provide ideas to our nation, which can actually find its way on the policy papers of ministers and of the prime minister. We are looking forward to have many conversations on the economy, the different sectors of the economy. We believe that we have new ideas, we have a different vision that can take Dominica to the next level. We have not even spoken about the social landscape, crimes, the judiciary, our policies on the international scale, our obligations on the international platform. So there are many areas, including areas which are not being discussed because for some reason they don't appear sexy and they don't seem to be palatable in the mouths of politicians, but they are just as important. So Anthony, having said that, once again, I want to thank you. I want to thank the listeners. I want to thank your viewers, and I do look forward to get the honor to be on your program sometime in the future. So a good night to you, a good night to the listeners, those who partook in the conversation. Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you,
You're
and
welcome.
let everybody know that I invited you, and you said yes right away. And so for that, I am truly grateful. I think we had a good conversation, a conversation that needs to be had, and I believe that this honest and candid conversations are what we need. There's too much, like you say in Dominica, say we save it, where people try to hide stuff and keep up appearances. No, as President Obama says, sunlight is the best antiseptic. Let us uncover it. Let us look at the mess that we have and try to solve it. And so that is the objective. That basically is the objective. So as a number of the folks says, congratulations to you on the formation of you and the other members on the formation of the party. It seems like it was well thought out. I know there were a few attempts at creating parties in the last few years, and I was of the opinion that the public probably is suffering from new party fatigue. But I must say the way you presented the party tonight sounds more fresh than stale. So so good job with that, and your success can only mean Dominican success. And so we wish you and the party every success. And we hope that everybody else in the resistance movement, in the change movement, can see a reason to collaborate and to coalesce around the central theme of moving Dominica forward. And not everybody have their own particular ego that they feel within themselves. Everybody's seeing themselves as prime minister. Everybody's seeing themselves as, I don't know, whatever it is. We're a small country, but we can be an example, a shining example of how we, the Kalinago and the African people, can govern ourselves, and so other people can be inspired that it's not just that European model that we have access, that must work, that we can govern ourselves and do it successfully. And so therefore people like me would not have to leave. That is my measure of success for Dominica. That I came to the US, I studied, and I went back to Dominica, and I worked in Dominica for about 12 years. And I only moved because I had to move. And we want to create a Dominica where people like me shouldn't have to move, that we're willing to stay and work and build it. So I thank you one more time, and I thank everybody else on the live. Let's do this again. As I said, Joshua, when you have your website up, when you have your stuff set up, um, open invitation. Just reach out, and I will make the schedule open for you. All right. So good job, congratulations, and I
Yeah,
look
thank
forward
you.
to you. All right, you're welcome. You're very
All
welcome.
right.
All right.
Yes.
So folks, there you have it. I think what we had was a wonderful discussion. We anticipated that it would be, and it was. Um, Joshua is so eloquent, and he expressed himself well, and what he says seems to come from his heart. There was no scripting in the questions. This was all just a conversation that we had, and I think he came across as being very, very sincere and authentic. There seems to be a passion for the there seems to be a passion in the folks who were on the live, who openly declared their affiliation to the party. And so I want to thank you for staying with us. I know this is 2 hours. Up again, apologize for the late start. But before I leave, I want to express, just great concern for the folks from Grenada, particularly Carriacou, Union Island, and there's a couple of the other Grenadian islands who were, really traumatized by Hurricane Beryl. And of course, there's some folks in Texas, in Houston, Texas, and some of the other areas around who are currently still without power from 2 days ago because of Hurricane Beryl. So we just wish that the impact of the storm be lessened. Those of you who have the ability to contribute to their recovery, I heard an advertisement that there was some person on Federation Drive at 4 Federation Drive who was making collections to ship stuff to the affected islands. There are places where you can donate cash. So no matter where you are, do what you can to help them out, because there are quite a few people who are in the position that Dominica was after Hurricane Maria. So let's think of our fellow Caribbean people and to help them out. And folks, let's do this again next week, Wednesday. I think on tap, I have a guest from St. Lucia who is advocating for consumer protection with a particular view to the utilities, the water company, the electric company, and so on. And so we'll be talking about that and what your rights are. She's an attorney as well. What your rights are as a consumer especially in a monopolistic environment as we have in the Caribbean, where the electric company has a monopoly, the water company, most of the telecommunication company has some competition. So that's what we have on tap for next week, Wednesday. So don't forget to tune in. It's hot in some places in the US, so stay cool. And I wish you a great finish to your week and have an enjoyable weekend. Those of you who are traveling, safe travels. And good night, everyone. Thank you again to our guests and the guys in the background, my team that makes this possible. Man's audiovisual for my psychedelic videos and promotion. We're really looking forward to level up with this weekend interview, because I think the discussions that you hear here, you don't hear them anywhere else. And so, the maximum number of people need to get that education and that information. So good night, everybody. See you next week.